Howdy folks, this is my latest plane. It's the HobbyKing Cloud Surfer 2 metre wingspan FPV cruiser. My old Bixler is getting a bit soft and beaten up, so I thought it was time to replace it with something, and this came up on the HobbyKing sale for a price that I couldn't pass up. Not much more than the electronics themselves would cost, so it was a good deal. My overall impressions are pretty good. Apart from some things that need a little bit of strengthening, which I'll talk about a bit later on. So this video is all about my impressions and some of the mods I did before the Maiden. The wings are supposed to be removable, but I think it's wrong to think of them like that. It's a very tight fit in here, and I've already put a couple of thumb dents in the wing trying to get it in and out. There's a couple of spars, a big long one here and a shorter one at the back, I think, and they are a very tight fit as well. And this join here is very tight, which is a good thing, but it's wrong to think of it as a removable wing. My right flap hinge was a bit torn, but I would reinforce them with hot glue anyway, whether they were torn or not, so I'm not too worried about that. It comes with a clear acrylic nose cone, or nose dome I should say, but I don't think I'll use that. I'll make my own foam nose cone and mount the camera up on top of that, or on the wing, or on the canopy. Something else I'll do is cover the leading edge of the wing with this 60 weight clear packing tape for a bit more protection from our rough landing areas and to stop the thumbprints. Now we'll flip it over and have a look at the wing servos and connections. The flaps and ailerons are enormous. They're 65 millimeters or 2.5 inches wide. And we have these big 12-gram servos for flaps and ailerons. That's comparing it to a little 9-gram servo there. So we have all this power and these big control surfaces, and they're connected by these ridiculously small and weak clevis pins and control arms. You could just snap that with your fingers easily. And it's attached to the control surface by these tiny little pads that are just gripping onto foam, which you could pull out easily. So ideally I would put a reinforcing patch around each of the control horns. As everyone else has reported, the prop is way out of balance, and it took all of this hot glue on the hub and all of this tape to balance it. This is how to reinforce foam hinges with hot glue. You just squirt a little amount of hot glue into the hinge and then scrape out as much as you possibly can, and you're just left with the glue that's impregnated into the foam, and it makes a nice flexible and tough hinge. Now I am taping up the elevator servo connection, because you won't get access to that once the tail is glued in, and you need to sort of tug on that servo extension lead down in the cockpit area. I'm just using copious amounts of hot glue to glue the tail on. Gives nice gap filling qualities, and you can pull it apart if you really need to later on. Try not to make a mess like I usually do. Using scraps of soft packing foam, I'm making the nose cone now, which will replace the clear plastic dome. And I'm covering it all with red cloth tape, which makes it stand out and makes it nice and tough. For the moment I'm just using more red cloth tape to attach it to the plane, and there's probably a more elegant solution for this. I decided to change all the control horns for my own ID card plastic version, which is hot glued into place and is much more durable and stronger than the supplied version, and I can drill the holes, the connection holes, to the correct size as well, to take out some of the terrible slop in the linkages. I also made up my own push rods, which are bulletproof and are not going to break, and they're still easy to remove. And they fit the holes that I've drilled perfectly. I also put a drop of CA glue in the servo arm to reduce some of the slop in the hole there too, and glued on a little protector skid for the servo arm. Now for my favourite part, which is sitting down, making all the connections and making up all the mixes and programming. Here you can see I have shortened the push rods on the flaps, and that allows you to use the full range of the servo for the limited movement of the flaps that you need. You don't need the flaps to go up at all. And with this you can make the flaps go a lot further down as well.
Flaps down, flaps up.
Here's the leading edge with the 60 micron clear packing tape protection on it now. It took two 2650 mAh 3S batteries to get the CG to 75 millimeters behind the leading edge, and that brought the flying weight to about 1620 grams. So I'm ready for a maiden, but weather isn't playing ball. We've got 22 knots, which is way too much for a maiden. Just going to have to be patient.